there's no one way to do it. I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, here's the secret. No, there's no freaking secret.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of language I was supposed to use.
No, you good. You did good. You did good.
There's no secret.
Yeah.
There's no one secret to any of that. And so when somebody tells you this is a secret, no, it's a lie.
Right.
It might be a way of doing things.
Right.
But I don't want to say, go the whole classic NC State way of never give up. But that's kind of what it is. But the true giving up is quitting anything you're passionate about altogether.
Right. Altogether. Like, I'm going to go work for somebody and I'm never going to film again. No, don't do that. Welcome to the Technical Creative, a show produced by STEMedia about career development and growth in both the technical and creative spaces. I am your host, Dr. Nehemiah Mabry, and my guest today is Taylor D. Adams. Hey, if you want to learn about how this used car salesman became a film producer, how he thinks art inspires science and vice versa, and why the original Lion King was the greatest and the remake probably should have never happened, stay tuned right here on the Technical Creative. Taylor, what's up, man?
What's up, homie?
All right, man. Listen, you've come to the studio. Exactly. It's been a long time. For folks who don't know, Taylor is the guy. I've already said this in my intro, but I'm going to say it right now. Is the guy who has been working with STEMedia for a number of years now and have helped bring to life a number of our both conventional and unconventional projects.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, whether it be editing, DP, producing, whole nine, man. But I got to ask you this question. Like, you even beyond working with us at STEMedia, you've been a part of, I guess, 200 plus episodes of podcasts, TV, documentary shorts, whatever you want to call it. You bring a lot of passion and a lot of creativity to your work. But you've also been working with some incredible STEM professionals such as myself. And so my first question is,
on a scale from 1 to awesome, how awesome are you?
How awesome am I? But more importantly, when are you going back to school to get your engineering degree?
No, that is not at all.
Are you serious? It's not on the docket,
no,
man?
it's not on the docket.
Oh, man. So you tell me I didn't inspire you yet?
Half of these events we end up covering talk about how much money they got to spend to get a doctorate, and then they drop out halfway through. So I'm like, no, I don't want to go there.
Oh, man, listen, I thought I by now I would have had you in a lab somewhere.
I feel like I've got a doctorate by osmosis hanging around all you smart people.
Watching enough footage that you cut up and edit, you probably got a couple of concepts, man. You probably could pass a couple of tests.
I'll give it a shot.
No, man, but really, I guess this is jump into just really what we want to talk about, and that is like sort of the symbiotic relationship I think that we've had, because you have, your background is in communications, mine is in engineering, STEMedia, we do all things STEM, but you also know a lot about communications, about filmmaking, the whole nine. How do you feel like the work that we've done has sort of inspired the work that you do? And then vice versa, what do you think are some of the things that we've been able to exchange?
I think one of the things that's been awesome about working with y'all and working in a different field altogether than I'm used to, because like my background, like the majority of my background is in sports. And so, around 2020, basically transitioning to the bulk of my filmmaking, storytelling, whatever, being transitioned into something that I had not been exposed to before, with different elements of science and mathematics. So I think it's just been interesting to see how any approach that I would have had with sports could translate to covering something more educational, or in what ways did I need to adapt in order to successfully communicate the ideas that are sometimes tough to articulate. Going over, molecular breakdowns of the stuff that makes peppers spicy, or like what makes, how are we able to smell things? Like that's been fascinating to try to convey into a visual medium.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's absolutely what we as a company seek to do. But you, and I remember, I could just go ahead and talk about this now. I remember coming across your work years ago, like really not long after I started STEMedia in grad school. I think you were still a student at the time. I got your name from a common friend of ours, Nicholas Saylor. And I remember I checked out your work. We didn't connect until years later. And even then, you were doing a lot of sports work. But in my mind, I was like, this is the unique perspective that I want to bring into sort of the STEM world, science and engineering, because, you have sort of like your old school, boring way, no offense to anybody, but, just trying to straightforward way of telling certain stories in our space. But I feel like you have already elevated not just what we do, but just the way that we as a community look at it. And so let me ask you this question then. When it came to like what you did in sports, what was sort of your original like philosophy in capturing that? And maybe that gives a little bit of insight into what you now.
Well, I think, there is definitely kind of a common there for me. It's all about kind of the human element. Okay. So I think sometimes that's tough with scientific principles because the purpose of it is like the science. But for me, what's made the most interesting is looking at the people who are doing the science,
doing the
science,
people behind the science.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the people who are doing the research,
right,
or the people that are doing the applications, like finding out like why they're doing it is, I think, what is the most like powerful connective thing to convey within the story. Because like we can, if we want to look up why we smell things, we can read an article.
Right.
There's so many things you can do in order to learn that stuff. But I think trying to tell a story with the human connection that's what I'm really into, like regardless of subject matter.
Right.
And so I think that's been helpful in successful, you know, science communicators and storytellers, like be successful. It's like telling that story through the human lens, like either whether it's adding a personality to the voice that is communicating the information, or it's learning more about the person who is doing really important like cancer research or something. Right. Like why are they doing that? They're not doing that because like, you know, I like looking at through a microscope all day. They're doing it for like a bigger reason, a more important reason for on an individual basis. Excuse me.
That's dope, because I feel like that's what education in general lacks sometimes. Because one of the things we think about is why people start towards a science degree or start towards an engineering degree, but then don't finish. And I think a lot of times it's because they lose that connection to the bigger why, right? What is the impact that's going to come from this work? And so even though you may be, like you said, looking in the microscope for, I don't know, hours, if you add it all together cumulatively, ultimately, the time spent looking into a microscope is leading to curing diseases, is leading to better understanding of how certain things operate.
Yeah. And even that person that's doing that examining through the microscope, like their reason could be they just love to know stuff. Like they want to understand things more. Right. And like knowing that they want to do that, like that, conveying that idea then makes the information more important, I think.
Got you. Well, speaking of the person looking through a microscope, being a person who has looked through a number of lenses, let's go back. Let's talk about your motivation. What got you into storytelling? Give us the origin story of how you even got to a person that has produced the number of things that you've produced at this point.
Oh, Lord. The earliest memory I have of like doing anything with like story thing is I think I was like 4. I was
really
4 years old.
That's pretty early.
Yeah. And my cousin, he's 5 years older than me. And he had a video camera. And basically he built like a Lego town. Okay. And then they had this like child's Godzilla costume. And he had me put it on and like terrorize the town. So we filmed that. And I just remember like having a blast doing that. Yeah. And I've always just since then I've been like more, I desired more to like do entertaining stuff, or storytelling stuff. So I always kept my eye out for like opportunities, like whether it was like, you know, acting in a school play and, you know, elementary school.
So you started as talent. You started as talent.
I did start as talent.
In front of the camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then eventually I think I was like maybe like 12 or 13. Ended up getting a video camera. Okay. And just started like filming everything, like documenting everything.
If anybody out there has a copy of any of those videos of Taylor in the Godzilla suit,
I don't know where that one's probably dead, but I do have a lot of videos from high school that I still
really
I throw on my website in my reel.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm like, if I'm, you know, selling the services of Scrap Productions or me as a director or filmmaker, storyteller, whatever. Yeah. I have that stuff on there, like integrated in something like, oh yeah, this is skinny 15-year-old me with a full head of hair.
I know. We both had that former self with the hair. You know, yeah. So obviously, and you brought up Scrap Productions, which is the name of your production company, and we're going to get to that in a second. But when did you decide that, hey, this is something you want to do as a career? Like, when did that come up?
I don't think there was a moment.
Okay.
It was just gradual, which is like such a lame answer. But literally, like, I got to the point where, you know, junior, senior in high school, like, my folks were both educators, so they're like, gotta go to college. I was like, okay. And I had like applied to like 3 schools. I had no I wasn't looking into the places that I would go that I thought would like advance my career. Cause I wasn't even thinking about like advancing my career. I was just like, I like doing this thing. I guess I'll go somewhere and like major in communication because it's a broad concept. Right. But if you really focus on what you want to focus on, you can do that thing. And so I ended up going to NC State. Okay. Go back. And I ended up after like a year of taking courses that I absolutely hated that were all like communication theory and inquiry. And I'm like, this is boring. Don't give me the academic stuff. Give me the practical stuff.
Practical. Yeah.
And so ended up focusing a lot of my classes on my own. When I got the opportunity, I would take like audio production, TV production, film production, video production, like all kinds of stuff. And then I didn't really figure out what I exactly wanted to do until probably my last year of college. And even that was a broad goal. I said, I just want to work in TV because I was loving TV shows at the time. There were like TV shows that I was absolutely loving, and I was like going down the rabbit hole of like how they're made and what, like who's writing them, who's directing them, what have they done, you know, and then later on, what did they go on to do next? And so I was super fascinated by that. And also the fact that I watched like tons of like behind the scenes commentary and director's commentary and all that stuff. And everybody seemed like they were having a blast. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I just want to have fun at my job.
Right.
And so that's what kind of led me to this idea of making shows. And now that we live in an era where there's so many platforms,
right? Content
like,
everywhere.
It doesn't have to be on ABC, NBC, Fox. Doesn't have to be on FX or HBO. It can be on YouTube.
TV can mean anything.
Yeah, TV can really mean anything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what's the great part about it is there's so many outlets that I can do the things that I want to do and I'm setting out to do myself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we were one of the people back in the DVD era. I remember where they had like the bonus director's commentary where you watch the scene.
I still buy them, man.
Even to this day.
Physical copies, yeah.
Wow.
Buy physical media because HBO can just take off your favorite show like that without telling you.
Oh, man. And then it's nowhere to be found.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you would like, that was almost like a class for you too then. You would listen to what they're saying, what they wanted to do with the story, why they chose this instead of that.
I didn't even think of it as education. I was like, I would watch like, one of the big shows I was watching at the time was Psych, and I would watch an episode of Psych, and then I'd watch the exact same episode with the commentary on and learn what they're doing. And I did that with a lot of movies too, like this movie called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is one of my favorite movies.
I've heard of that movie. Yeah,
it's got Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer. Watch that, and then I watched the DVD commentary. I'd watch Sideways, then watch the DVD commentary. American Beauty, DVD commentary. Like I would watch all these movies, and then directly after that, watch the DVD commentary. And maybe even back, when Netflix was shipping out physical DVDs, I would do that. I would watch it and then watch the DVD commentary that was on the physical.
So how did you get to sports? So how you go from there shows to sports?
So right out of school, I had the illustrious opportunity to be a car salesman.
Okay, illustrious.
The worst job I've ever had in my life. But outside of that, then I started getting opportunities to work more in media. Like I ended up with an unpaid internship at Trailblazer Studios here in Raleigh. Did that, and then I was like tending bar and waiting tables like 5 to 7 nights a week too. I was like going back and forth.
Bro, you had a Hollywood story in North Carolina, basically. Waiting tables and making movies.
I was doing a lot. And then a friend of mine from college was an intern with the NC State Athletics Department, like for their website. Okay. And he like did it for a year and then was going to leave, and he recommended me as his replacement. And I was like, cool, yeah, I'll check it out. Like this, thanks, man, appreciate this. Went in for the interview, and then I got it later. Like I
killed it. That's humble brag, Joe. You heard that? He said, I went in for the interview, and then I'm just saying.
But that was my introduction into like filming and making stuff around sports. Was this internship, and at the time it was like make sure these live stream press conferences are fine. They don't like go down or anything like that. And then like making highlights of, the men's soccer team and all kinds of fun stuff. And then gradually I just kind of like wanted to do more stuff. And I got to work in the office next to the guy who was running NC State's athletics like television show at the time. Like the host sits down with the coach and is like, hey coach, how about that game? And so I wanted to work in TV. And so I said, hey, like I'd love to help out if you'll let me. And I ended up kind of shadowing him for a little bit and also making stuff. And then when he left, I got the opportunity to take that over. Right. So I did like basically a sports talk show for 3 years, for 30 weeks straight. The first year I did it though, I had to make 2 shows per week.
Wow.
It was insane.
I mean, you were everything basically too.
Yeah, I was doing everything. Like back then, the internal video team was maybe me and another person. Like right now, like across college athletics, there's more than one person doing everything. They have teams.
I mean, they're multiple teams. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I ended up doing this kind of like just talk TV show, and it can get bland because it's basically. Back then, it was basically a podcast. Like
pretty much a video podcast. It was this, but it was like probably a set shot.
It had a set. Yeah, it was like just 2 cameras.
Right.
And then, but I did have the opportunity to like do some like creative and fun and a little bit out of the box thinking kind of stuff. Like
what?
Like one thing I'm still proud of is I made a video. I think my second year working on that show was it was about homecoming.
Okay.
And that was really cool because I got like opportunity to like have some really cool music, and then I like wrote a script and I narrated it, and it's all like B-roll of beautiful campus during the fall, and then fans and highlights of the game, and just having a really good time. And so that was a lot of
nice, like some montage, homecoming montage.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to put together. So stuff like that, just doing things that weren't gameplay related.
Right. Okay.
Like we'd have segments of like, okay, let's break down this play, and we'd bring out the whiteboard.
Right. But it was more. I mean, you got to the why and the context around the thing itself.
Yeah, exactly. That was the point I was trying to do. So yeah, that's how I kind of got started in the TV game, was taking over this sports talk show.
Yeah. And man, listen, I can tell y'all, if you're watching this guy is highly skilled. I like to say how this guy sitting in front of me, Taylor, instantly raises the collective IQ of the set that he walks on, the crew. I mean, he's what would we say, Joe? He's a curve killer, right? If there was one, when it comes to the crew grades and everything. But Taylor, man, you often have told me off the air or off camera how you never really intended to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
but now
I've said that too many times.
really, man. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about Scrap Productions, and how did this person that didn't intend to be an entrepreneur end up being an entrepreneur? Because I tell people all the time, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. In fact, even when I was working in 9 to 5, like years before, I was sort of like thinking ahead to when I would like make the leap. Yeah, you sort of have a totally different story. So, give us your journey to Scrap Productions.
Yeah, I kind of became an entrepreneur out of necessity because the only full-time job I've ever had with an organization was that car salesman job. It's the only full-time job I've ever had.
Wow.
The rest of it has always been freelance work, or part-time work.
Part-time, yeah.
And so for a while, it was just me. Like, it was my name, and checks were made out to
Taylor,
my name, and doing all this other stuff. And then once I started to kind of realize more of a vision of stuff I really liked making, like stuff that had importance to me, I felt like I should kind of like attach kind of a name to it. Okay. And so that's where Scrapped Productions came from. Basically, the idea is a lot of ideas that I have felt I really wanted to execute either fall by the wayside due to powers that be, or like there's like a funding issue or something like that. So that those ideas, like, they get trashed, they get scrapped.
Always funding issues.
And so that's where the name came from. Okay. And for me, I just kind of like, it was out of necessity. I was like, okay, well, I'm not really getting a full-time job. Yeah. I'm not getting a full-time job. I'm enjoying freelancing. I enjoy the freedom as much as the financial part of it is a little tricky from a stability standpoint. But yeah, I've just kind of gotten accustomed to being the person that's running my own thing. And so, that's basically what it is. But yeah, I never sought out to like, own my own production company and do this, that, and the other. All I ever wanted to do was like tell stories. Yeah. And so it's more of like from a financial and a legality standpoint. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Right. And I do realize that as a filmmaker, I should probably take on more of an entrepreneurial mindset. Yeah. When it comes to like, okay, I have this really great idea. How do I make it happen?
How do I make it happen?
Yeah, like that kind of thing. But never, I don't put like entrepreneur under my title or anything like that, or founder. I don't do that either. I'm just like on the Secretary of State documentation, I'm the president of Scrap Productions.
There you go, man.
It's just me. Listen, and that's where it is right now.
Well, let me ask you this question then, because I remember when someone first put a camera in my hands. Well, not first, because I did some of the stuff growing up too. My family had a camcorder. I remember making like our own like Saturday Night Live skits in my living room, getting my siblings to do stuff. But when I, fast forward to when I started to realize, okay, STEMedia is going to be a media company creating content. I literally remember my friend Jenny, shout out to Jenny. She brought a camera. It was one of those small tape cameras. It was like, here, you can use this. Yeah, you can use this. We use this to get B-roll and da-da-da. I didn't know what B-roll was. Like, I didn't even know what B-roll is.
But you were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm going to get a bunch of B-roll. I get A-roll, C-roll, whatever, Z-roll. You know what I'm saying, Joe? We better make it have all the rolls. And I was... Stop, drop, and roll, whatever roll we want to do. But
I know that look on your face when you're like, yeah, in your head you're like, I got to figure this out. I don't know what it is.
Right. And I'm sure you've seen it a lot, man. But like, what would you, if you had to go back, and we'll get some more advice from you later on, but if just around the entrepreneurship in general, if that is something like, say, a person knows that they want to do, what would you say is maybe one or two things they should keep in mind? If they know they want to start a production or / media company, what should they keep in mind?
It will be hard.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Because I think a lot of people really get frustrated, myself included, when things aren't going according to any plan. Your A through J plans will fall through. Yeah. And then you got to pick it up after that. So I think there's a lot of like, I hate to say like just grind it away, but it literally is like that sometimes. Yeah. But you're going to be okay. And also I want to tell people that if it does get too hard and you want to go work for somebody else, there should be zero shame in that.
Zero shame.
Because a lot of people do feel that. They're like,
Right.
once they get into the route of entrepreneur, founder, whatever, I'm doing my own thing. And then they get to a point where like, man, I am like, I'm barely scraping by.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you get an unexpected expense you got to pay for. And you're like, oh, I'm really struggling here. It's okay to go work for somebody else. Because then do it for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And then if you still have the bug to like do your own thing, like then you've like built up maybe a little bit of a nest egg to get to then go out and do it all over again if you want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's no one way to do it. I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, here's the secret. No, there's no freaking secret.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of language I was supposed to use.
No, you good. You did good. You did good.
There's no secret.
Yeah.
There's no one secret to any of that. And so when somebody tells you this is a secret, no, it's a lie.
Right.
It might be a way of doing things.
Right.
But I don't want to say, go the whole classic NC State way of never give up. But that's kind of what it is. But the true giving up is quitting anything you're passionate about altogether.
Right. Altogether. Like I'm gonna go work for somebody and I'm never gonna film again. No, don't do that. But I love what you said, and I almost wanted to let it breathe. One of those moments. There should be zero shame if, say, you have this goal of starting a company, but you decide that at this stage of your life or your journey, I need to go get a job, right? But I'm not going to completely toss it to the side.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think that's so important, Taylor, is because we live in an area where YouTube is big. Anybody can start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the top 1% of YouTubers who are doing this full time, who are making millions of dollars, who are like working for themselves, they get a lot of pub. And so some people feel like, oh, something must be wrong with me if you're part of the other 99%, right?
Yeah.
Who can't really get a business off the ground immediately, who have to continue to do their 9 to 5, do it on nights and weekends, whatever the case may be. There's no shame in that. Like that's majority of people have to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you said that, man.
There's like a nice middle you can exist in.
Okay.
You can make enough money to support yourself and store stuff away and then go on a fun vacation.
Right.
You don't have to be the mega YouTuber.
Mr. Beast. You don't have to be Mr. Beast.
You don't have to be that person.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to. Like you can literally make it work. You can buy a house on a stand like a middle range YouTube salary. Like that's totally acceptable.
Right.
You don't have to be the big names. It's hard to overcome a big name.
Yeah.
And if you're okay being a medium-sized fish in a medium-sized pond and being happy,
yes,
then that's what it should be about.
Well, Joe, gotta let that one breathe. That was good. All right, cool. Well, listen, we're about to go to our segment. We like to do a little interactive segment in the middle of all of our interviews. And what we thought would be cool for you, since you are a filmmaker, storyteller, producer extraordinaire, is talk a little bit about movie association. Now, you have and while we set this up, you have a podcast called Film Nuts.
Yes.
Give a quick spill on that.
Yes. So Film Nuts is a podcast about why we love what we watch. It's all about learning why we love the thing so we can learn more about the people. And in that sense, create that connection that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Because, where a lot of people are like shouting at each other nowadays. And so like, if you find out that the neighbor you're not getting along with loves the same show you watch, then maybe that's something you actually can agree upon. And then from there, you can find common ground on other issues. So I feel like media, entertainment in general is a great way to find common ground in order to then understand each other better.
There you have it. I love it. All right, so check this out. I'm in this game called Movie Association.
Okay.
I'm going to name a movie that I think there's a good chance you may have heard, right? We're going to play this game, and you can share an associated story. You can think about maybe the director or something that comes to mind, a fun fact that comes to mind, or just a random thought, right?
Okay.
Right, as it relates to a movie that I'm going to say. And I'm just going to go off the cuff here. And what I'll try to do, since this is, again, STEMedia, I want to see if I can think of something, I don't know, maybe STEM related. I may not have one for all of them, putting myself on the spot here. But let's start things off with The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. It took me forever to come around to this movie because it was so big and everybody like was adoring it that I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I don't think I want to see it because you guys are like hyping it up too much.
Yeah.
And then I never saw it in the theater. Eventually rented it and watched it. I was like, this is a very good movie.
Yeah.
But that was probably one of the first occasions where everybody else around me was raving about it so much that I was super hesitant to even check it out.
Just because they're raving.
Just because of that. And I feel like that's like a bad attitude to have, but like eventually I did get around to it. It is a very good movie. I think it's the best of the Nolan Batman trilogy.
Yeah. The thing about Batman is that I've always looked at superheroes, whether it be Marvel or DC, and try to think about, okay, how can this be real, right? And he's a billionaire, right?
Batman's the one that could be real.
He's the one that could be real, right? He's a billionaire, and he also just has all this money to invest in all these gadgets and get all this stuff done. And so that's what comes to mind there, like how like really there's a lot of technology that exists that we know nothing about, especially in the area of defense, right? But it takes an extraordinary amount of money to get it done, to produce it, right? So which is why you don't see it in everyday life yet. But no, that's really good. That's really good. All right. So next one, The Lion King.
Lion King. Man, this was my favorite Disney movie for a really long time.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't really name something that, Disney and Disney Pixar. I feel like two separate entities, but this one is one of my favorite ones. Did you know that it's basically Hamlet?
Oh my goodness.
It's the same exact story as Hamlet.
No.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's serious.
I'm gonna have to go back and
that's what's cool.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool about it.
In a whole nother, it's just like a totally different universe now. But Hamlet.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I assume you're talking about the Lion King from the early 90s.
Yeah, the original,
and
right?
not that awful remake.
Oh, you didn't like the remake?
No.
Oh man.
All I had to do, I saw someone post on Twitter the Hakuna Matata scene.
Yes.
Side by side, the original and the new one.
Oh, right.
And the new one, it made me die a little inside because there's no joy because they try to make everything super real.
Right.
Animals don't sing in real life. So when you try to make an animal sing in real life.
You're already stretching, right.
Like, and there's no joy, there's no animation. It's just these animals moving along and their voices move. There's no like the animation, like expression in the animation. That's what makes animation so beautiful is you can like exaggerate facial expressions or body expressions and make things happen in a cartoon world that you can't in a real life.
Even you can like bend time and space. Right?
You can do whatever.
Because you look at like those musical numbers in the original Lion King and like Simba would just pop up around all these animals and then all these decorative, like you're singing over here by the water and the next thing you know.
He's over there,
right. And so
like, isn't that joyful? Like you describe it to me and you're smiling. Like, if you've seen the new one?
Yeah.
Now describe it to me.
Yeah, they have to walk over there and then they have to, there's a lot of like physics that they're trying to abide by.
It's lame.
And it takes out, well, I didn't think it was that bad, but I agree with you. The original was better. But here's the amazing thing about it. When I try to show that to my daughters, they're like, if you don't take this whack, low quality animation thing off the screen, it's the story though, right? That we connect to. But they look at the animation, they're like, this is totally old animation. Like, and I'm like, yeah, you look, Hakuna Matata. But that's the STEM connection there. I would say the animation we've grown leaps and bounds in terms of animation 100%. And the work, because I think back when they did the original, they were still like drawing every single frame.
And I love that you can tell that, like you can tell when something's hand-drawn now. Yeah. Like if something comes out now and it's hand-drawn, you can still tell this. It doesn't look old. It looks new and hand-drawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. All right, cool. Let's do another one. All right. What about The Social Network? Did you watch that?
Yes, I have that.
All right.
I have seen that. That's a really solid movie.
Yeah.
It's so good. The writing is just next level. Like there's certain things about, sometimes it's hard to recognize like what is like good writing and what is bad writing. But some of the things you can kind of like, there are technical things you can break down.
Yeah.
But when the stuff, like the conversation just kind of like flows.
Right.
And you're inherent, like you're understanding what they're saying.
Yes.
Through the way they're saying it. There's like subtext, like they'll say something one way, but you actually know they mean it another way. Like that's another indication of
very
really
witty,
good.
Very engaging, right, throughout the entire thing, because it's not like there's a whole lot of action taking place.
Right. It's hard to write a movie about a bunch of people just talking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But some of the best movies are just people talking.
Yeah. Did you see Chernobyl? No, not Chernobyl. I'm sorry.
The miniseries?
I was going to ask about that, but I actually thought about something totally different.
Okay.
Oppenheimer is what I meant to think about.
Yes, I did see Oppenheimer.
All right.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because there was a lot of talking to that, but they had more visual.
There was a lot going on. I think that I don't have an interesting take on it. Okay. However, I was disappointed in my movie experience because it's a long movie, man.
Yeah.
It felt like I was sitting in a long movie, but there were certain things that were so cool to see on a large screen. Like the entire Trinity test, like any close-ups of people's faces, I was like, this is a large face. Like, this is insane. Like the amount of detail that we can capture with this. And I think for me, it wasn't like, it wasn't my favorite Nolan movie.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where I really appreciate that movie. But I don't think I liked it as much as I wanted to like it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Which is totally fine. Like a lot of people have their favorites. Like I feel like as filmmakers, we can kind of like pick out what is a favorite and then what is something that was like technically like massive.
Right.
And sometimes they don't align. Yeah. And that's okay.
And break down what you mean by technically massive.
Like when you look at like Oppenheimer, like the majority of the effects were practical, like all explosions and stuff like that were like practical effects. And the fact that when you're witnessing it on a large screen, if you saw it in a movie theater, you're like,
Yeah, I saw
This is insane.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That this amount of detail is in this one frame, and it looks like tangible. It looks tactile. It doesn't look like it was computer generated.
Right.
And then like stuff like sound design, like that's a technical thing. Like you like the way. One of my favorite. I'm not going to spoil that movie, but like one of my favorite scenes is like after they've done the Trinity test, and he's like telling the people of the town what has happened, and just like the sound drops out.
Yes,
and it's like the best moment of the movie.
So I was talking to Stephanie. You know Stephanie, who
I
we
do know
both work with.
Stephanie.
Yeah, shout out to the doc, who's editing this right now. Shout out to you.
Make me look good, please.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, I like the way that movie attempted to keep, I guess, use cool storytelling conventions to like bring you into it. Like when he was being praised, but at the same time you're looking at the effects, right? Like the way that they were sort of like almost parallel tell two stories at the same time. Again, don't want to spoil a whole lot when he was interrogated and like all those different things. Even when you go down to when they were trying to like give visual representation of the science, right? Putting the marbles in the jar and all that kind of stuff. Like that's what I think about a lot.
I love the opening shot of the movie.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Ripple.
great,
As soon as it came up, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, I love it. No, so that's great. Check that out if you all haven't seen that. Let me give you one more on you.
Sure.
Have you seen all right, I'm gonna go here. Black Panther.
Yeah, seen Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Probably one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Okay. Yeah. Likewise.
That's a big movie to talk about with tech.
Okay. Yes.
That's a huge movie to talk about with tech. I think I'll let you talk about that stuff.
But you're right.
But for me, when I was watching it, it was gorgeous. It was solid. Like I haven't seen it in a while, so I can't like immediately recall like what exactly I enjoyed about it, but I remember having a blast watching it. Yeah. It was before I got like tired of Marvel. And so,
I think everybody got tired around the same time, actually. Shortly after that. But go ahead.
But super solid movie. Yeah. Great cast, visually amazing. And yeah, like seeing the kind of like Afrofuturism being brought to light was really cool to see.
That's what exactly comes to my mind, Afrofuturism. And I think that movie opened up a broader audience to those ideas. Just as a, Black community, of course, we've seen our fair share of, slave movies, and we've seen our fair share of just the oppression that we've had to overcome, which are all stories worth to be told and cannot be ignored. However, Afrofuturism, there's an aspirational aspect to that. I can just say for my community, beyond just, again, us seeing ourselves in powerful positions, but the idea of, what we stand for, even in Technical Creative, that, hey, there's some ideas that you have that you can create, and they can literally exist. And it is sort of just like tickles your imagination a bit when you think, hey, this is vibranium, right? It's not a real, element or metal, but it's like, hey, what if we had a metal that we could do this with, or we can absorb this with, or we could put energy into where we can make sneakers very silent. All that type of stuff is just amazing, man. So, no, thank you so much for participating in this movie association game. I feel like we can go on and on and on.
We could. Yeah, for sure.
But it might turn into a Film Nuts podcast after a while. But thank you so much. That concludes movie association. I asked a question earlier. You answered, I guess, the first half of it. I'm going to ask again now in a different way. And that is, what do you feel like myself, scientists, engineers can learn from you as a storyteller in the work that we do? What do you think some of the things that we could gain?
I think that I can't speak for people, everyone in the scientific community. But I do think there is still like a misunderstanding on how to properly convey scientific principles.
Okay.
Because a lot of times I think for scientists, like they write the papers. Yeah. And they're like, here it is. Here's all the stuff about the thing I'm doing. Yeah. It's 27 pages single spaced with 10-page APA citations. Yeah. I'm like, great, cool, glad you did that. Yeah. Let's figure out how to like, if this is important enough, we need everyone to understand this. So things that are just written down on a page, that is not conveying just the meaning. Yeah. Like there's a lot more that goes into a video or a movie or even a podcast about a scientific principle than it's just the written word. Right. Like it's the presentation. It's the packaging. It's the way you inflect your voice on different symbols. Like it's the visuals that you see. It could be an animation or it could be stock footage or it be, like actual footage that has gone out and filmed about this particular problem with this corn crop or something like that. So it's more than just text. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, science and math, they're like hard things. Yeah, like it exists this way and no way else.
We like to think of it that way, for sure.
But the art part of it is the interpretation, like it's subjectivity. And so you need to find a way to take those hard principles and present them in a way that is palatable and has impact as opposed to just you telling me the sky is blue. Like, tell me why the sky is blue.
Yeah.
And make it fun. Like,
I love it, man. I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to make sure we don't keep you too much longer, but tell me really quick, what's your favorite, so far, what are one of your favorite STEMedia projects? Specific video, not like overall project, but specific video.
A specific video. For me, the two ones that come to my mind, we're working on the Hungry Planet episode for Chili Peppers.
Okay,
that was a lot of fun.
Yes, we got shots, cue shots of him tasting a very spicy pepper.
Yeah, tasting the peppers. Yeah, that was a fun experience. But also, like, I like filming things that have to do with a lot of culture, and so that includes like food.
Okay.
And so like filming plants. There was also another episode where like filmed in a kitchen,
right?
Where they were like cooking elote, and I was like, things were on fire. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I was shooting it in slow mo. It was like super cool. I was so excited about it. So yeah, that's probably one. And then the episode of Why Am I Like This that we did about stress.
Oh, that was fun.
Because we tried to emulate some scenes from Get Out using as much lighting as we had.
That was fun.
And I remember like I had these lights that have a lightning sensor on them, and we like had them go off.
That was me out there holding it,
and you had to hold it down. And then at one point there's a police lights setting on it, and I was worried that like the neighbors would get like really worried when they saw police lights. But that was just super memorable to like just having fun and doing weird, stupid stuff to try and tell people what stress does to your body. including
that sketch we did, right? Where you drop kicked
me. Yeah. People's elbows me. That's what you do.
Cue that. We got to show that too. But anyway, as you get ready to close, man, I really appreciate the time you spent. We like to close with 2 more words of advice. And we would like you to give it direct to the camera. It's basically you going, what would you tell?
Which one?
This is you right here, right? Cool. What would you tell your younger self, years ago? What concise piece of advice would you tell your younger self? And then we want you to give something to your future self as well.
Okay.
Imagine you've accomplished some goals you already have in your mind now. What would you then say to that future Taylor? Let's start with the past, then the future.
All right, come here. Get close. Get close. It's gonna be okay. Like, that's super lame, but like I remember I'm like thinking back to like myself, and I'm like pretty chill, but I've had stresses and worries and all this other stuff. But just know, like, that stupid video you were editing for 6 hours in high school as a replacement for a paper, you're going to get an A on it. And then that's going to make you feel better about your career path going forward. Like, it's going to be fine.
I love it. Somebody needs to hear that even now. And then future Taylor, what would you say to that future Taylor?
First of all, future Taylor, you look great for your age. Remember this moment when you're talking with your buddy Nee.
Yep.
That I hope you're able to remember all of the fun experiences you've had. Because I recently did a video essay about this, where you might not remember all the things you've done, you might not remember all the experiences you've had, but the way you carry yourself and the actions that you have going forward, that reflect what you have already done, even if you don't actually remember it.
Powerful. I wish we could show that too somehow. That was a dope video essay. But listen, man, thank you for coming on, Taylor. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for everything you will continue to do with us here at STEMedia. This has been great. I'm glad we had you here on the Technical Creative.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.